As you can see, I made it back from my trip, and yeah, the ride back was really cold. Oh shit. The ride back was really cold. I made it home an hour and a half after it got dark, and it really didn't get cold until halfway between Red Bluff and Susanville, so that wasn't so bad. And yeah, I was pretty chilly by the time I got in, but you know, most of the ride was pretty survivable. Yeah, I didn't really get any footage on the highway on the I-5 just because it was big and long and boring, and there's not a whole lot to see. And then by the time I got to Red Bluff, I didn't want to take the time to like put on the camera and worry about batteries and stuff like that. I wanted to just get home, and so I did, and here I am. Charlie's gonna be shop dog today. Are you a good girl, Charlie? Say woof if you're a good girl. Oh, that's a good girl. So the real excitement here, now that I'm done with the Highway 1 ride, is the chopper. And I've got the front end kit, as I showed in a previous video, and I've got her all jacked up, and I've got all the wrenches, and I'm gonna start wrenching on it. I don't 100% know what I'm doing here, but I'm gonna figure it out as I go. And I only really see 2 or 3 bolts that I can even take off on the front end anyway. So I'm just gonna take those off and see if it all falls apart. And so that's kind of the plan. I'll make a video of it as I go. But yeah, I am really excited to finally be working on this thing. I've had a vision for it since a long time ago. Oh, Charlie, you dog. Battery charger. So we got the risers taken off and the headlight, and that opens up everything. So the only other things I think are this clamp and this bolt right here, these 2 clamps here and this bolt. So we'll see. Okay, so this is maybe a little bit of guesswork, but I got the top clamp off, and I think the next step is going to be this guy right here. It appears to be bolted on still, so I'm just going to keep unbolting shit until it comes loose. So we've lifted up the bike off the ground, got out the panel that was underneath the front tire, so it'll be easier to get the front end out. So we got this bolt, or this nut on the top here, a really long bolt going down the center, and she's just dropping out now. So a lot of wrenching. Okay, so it's day 2 of the chopper construction. I think I've made a lot of progress here. I've got some spare parts left over from the kit, like this. I know what this is, what it does, where it goes, and it just does not fit. And I think I'm going to be able to get away with just not using it. I think just the way my frame is set up. I think this dust cover and this extra bearing were extra because the Triple Tree had a dust cover and bearing already installed on it. And I think these 2 washers might be for the actual fork legs. And then this nut, I decided to use the nut that was already on. Got all the dust covers on. Everything's all, I think everything's all good. And so yeah, now all that's left is I just got to install the brake caliper onto the fork leg. I got to torque down the brake rotor onto the wheel, and then I got to take it to Reno and have a shoe put on it. And then I think I can assemble the whole thing. I'm hoping that the stock risers that I had from my other bike will fit these Triple Trees, and that I can just use that and put that on the bars as they are. But we will see. If that works out that way, that is way too easy. Way too easy. It's got to be harder than that, right? I just wanted to point out, I don't know if you can see it, but there are, yeah, there it is. You can see these blemishes on the chrome here. That is not ideal for a fork leg, because you want to have a good seal with your slider there. I understand from my research. You want to have a good seal, so you want nice, hard, smooth chrome. And fortunately, I think these are still going to be usable, just because the blemishes are all pretty high up on the slider, or on the leg, and I don't think they're going to actually affect the fork seal. I saw some on this leg too, on the front there. I don't know. Maybe it won't be a big deal. Maybe it will. I mean, all that would happen is you'd lose suspension. You'd just blow a fork seal, or it would leak. But like I said, that's pretty high up. You'd have to hit a pretty bad bump to have that be an issue. I just hope there's not any blemishes farther down. But that does kind of, it kind of works out with my plan to redo the fork legs anyway and make them longer. So I don't know, we'll see. We'll see. I have some questions about the quality of some of this this chroming here. It's just not good. It's just bumpy. So that's kind of a downer, but I think it'll get the job done, and I think I got what I paid for on this one. So it's a lot of parts all at once that I needed all at once. So, you know, whatever. So I put on the caliper for the brake, just hand tight. I'm going to go through and make sure that everything is tightened down to the correct torque, because I don't want to tear anything out or mess up anything, because that is a safety concern. And likewise, I just put on the forks, just hand tight, just so I can get the triple trees straight, so I can clamp those down. But I need to figure out, again, I need to figure out what the correct torque spec is for that. But yeah, now that I'm looking at it, it looks pretty good. I mean, I think it's going to look really good once it's all back together. It's going to be pretty clean, I think. Save for my minor gripes. I got to put oil in the suspension there, and I'll have to get a measuring cup and stuff and make sure I do that exactly to spec. All right, we're on day 3, I think, of the fork assembly. Only things left now is filling her up with oil, and I just figured out exactly how much fork oil to put in there. I was lucky enough to be able to buy it in town. I didn't have to order it or go anywhere, so that was lucky. I just figured out that if I use fine thread bolts, I could reuse the original risers from the Springer. And I happen to have the bushings and stuff laying around from my stock Dyna handlebars and risers, so I'll be able to reuse the same bars and reuse the same risers, and that's all going to be really good. And yeah, we're getting there. So almost done with it. I got my measuring devices here. The minimal instructions that I did get call for 10 ounces, 10.2 ounces. I figured out that 1.2 teaspoons is equivalent to 0.2 ounces. So I'm gonna have to eyeball it a little bit. I know you're not supposed to, but this is the best I can do. So there's that. So kind of embarrassing, but I made a little mistake. Hopefully it's minor. I think I fixed it. But what I did was, as I was filling up the fork tube with the fork tube oil, I spilled a bunch, and so I wound up having to drain the fork tube and start over again. And I'm sure there was some residuals left over in there, but I think I got it squared away. We're gonna find out here soon. What I did was I filled it up to that 10-ounce line, and then I filled it up to about 0.2 ounces past that. And you can see there's this little channel here. I poured the oil out the back on the way over there on accident, and so I had to drain it and start over. But in other news, I've got the headlight back on, sort of. I just got to torque everything down to the right specs and shit. I got the caps on. Those need to be torqued down to the right spec. And then I actually went to the hardware store earlier and picked up some bolts that would work for this. I got my stock bushings and washers and everything. It'll work with the Springer risers. And I found that it will all fit. I found that it will all fit in the triple trees as they are here. So I'll be able to use the same handlebars and the same risers and everything. The spacing on the risers might be different, but the spacing was already wider than this, so I think it's all going to work out. And then any day now I'm going to be getting that other part for the intake manifold so I can fix that. And I figure once I've got a wheel on the bike, once I've got a tire on the wheel, that is, I'll roll it onto the trailer and take it over to the welder, and he can fix up that foot peg. And then pretty much smooth sailing after that. Just got to put new brake lines on it. So I think I'm about ready to call it a day here and get back to it tomorrow. Hey Charlie, you're a silly dog. Just wanted to do a quick update on the progress here. So since I filled the fork tubes with oil, I came back out and discovered that the bottom drain nut on this side, and this is all stuff that mistakes I made and things for a person to think about and try to avoid when they do it. I assumed that the drain bolt on this side was tight from the factory, and it wasn't. And so I lost a couple drops and just like a little bit of weeping of oil. I had a hell of a time with, okay, so I put everything together, thought I had it all correctly assembled, thought it was all tightened down correctly, and then I torqued on the handlebars and felt that the whole thing was still wobbling. Okay, so I take it apart again, take off the triple trees. I'm leaving the handlebars connected here because I don't feel like taking out these long bolts again. And what I discovered was that this cap right here, the one that I had, wasn't seating correctly on this collar here. So it was set crooked at an angle, and I'm thinking that was part of why maybe I didn't have it torqued down and not tight enough. So I got the, after much, I tried to make the other collar, or the other cap fit. I really tried, and I wrenched on it a while with a pair of pliers to try and stretch it out enough that it could accommodate and seat on there. And eventually what I figured out is I can just use the cap that came off of the Springer, because it fits perfectly on there, and it's, you know, same but different. It's the same thing. So with that on there, little ice fell off. It snowed last night, so the ice is sliding off the roof and it scared the dog. So with that collar on there, I should be able to tighten down the, I think it's called a castle nut, and be able to tighten that down. So lessons, if you can reuse parts off of the old kit without damaging the new one, that is something that I think is, like, why not? Especially if the new parts don't fit. Just make it work. Don't assume that all the bolts are tight. check them, and don't I guess don't assemble everything back together prematurely, because this is about, at this point, this is the third time that I've taken the top triple tree off. So that's kind of annoying. But learning experience. So making progress. Well, we got the front end on. It's I'd say it's done. And the only thing left is I gotta figure out what's up with the spacing on here, because this bad boy goes like this, and that's not right. So it's about done. I mean, the front end is. There's a million other things that need done, but you know, one thing at a time. All right, back at it again with the chopper. I've been working on it for a while now, and I haven't really done any updates. I've just been working on it. It doesn't look like much has changed, but a lot has changed. So I've got the front end all done. I had a leak. I had to redo some of it, and I redid it, and now hopefully I left out these paper towels overnight to see if it was leaking at all. So far so good. I think between now and the last video I did, I had this bracket welded back on for the floorboard. In the process of that, I had to take off the exhaust pipe, put that back on, sealed it back up. I learned, I don't know if you knew this, but on twin cams, like my bike and my buddy's bike, they have two bolts that hold in the exhaust. On shovels, apparently, there's only one bolt, and that creates a sort of lever point that can lift out the other side. So a regular gasket isn't enough. You have to put in some kind of sealer. So I did that, and that's all squared away. Changed the oil. Figured out that the transmission oil doesn't need to be changed, just the motor oil. And then I learned also, and this was unexpected for me, the clutch is actually a dry clutch. So that's kind of cool. So I didn't have to change the oil on that. Put on the new seat. I don't think I did any video on that, but I should have, because I got the hipster glitter going when I ground this down. I ground down the brackets and cut the hinge off of the old seat. It was welded on. I think that seat looks much better than the old one. I should have done it before and after, before I gave the seat back to Doc. Oops. Anyway, pretty much the last thing that needs to get done here is the brake lines. The new brake lines should be, it says they'll be here Tuesday, I figure Wednesday. And then I can put on the brake line, and actually it's, I discovered from looking at the shipping, it's just the back brake line that's coming. The front brake hasn't shipped yet for some reason. So then it'll be rideable, I would say. Pretty much the only thing that's missing is the bolt that holds on the foot peg, the floorboard, and a brake. So there's that. In other news, I've got my tank sealer, my kit here from Cream. We're going to see how that goes. Got A, B, and C, and I got my gas tank here, and I'm going to set that up. It's going to be a pretty long process apparently, and then once that's done, I'll get to work on rewiring the bike, because it's got this big box in here full of wires that is going to have to be eliminated and relocated and all that. And I've got the wiring for that already. I've got the gas cap and the petcock for the new tank, and the fuel line on there is the right size. So just got to seal the tank and basically set up the mounts, and then I can mount the new tank and rewire the bike, and then she'll be done, aside from paint. So we're getting there slowly but surely. So my project for the next couple of days until the rest of the supplies get here is to get that tank ready. So time is near. The last thing, put on the brake cylinder from back, put the brake fluid in, and then she's rideable. So close. Okay, today is a really big day for this chopper motorcycle situation here. Chuck and I did the brakes yesterday, so she's got brakes now. Bled the lines and everything. Oil change, batteries charged up. All the administrative stuff, insurance, all that is squared away now. And I'm gonna take it out and ride it. I'm gonna have to be real careful because it is not ideal riding conditions right now. But she's ready to ride. After now, the only thing left is the rewire and the gas tank. I'm gonna put that peanut tank on there. I got the coating done. The inside of the new gas tank is all coated up, and it's ready to go. Like, it's ready to go. Oh man, I'm so fired up.
It's alive! It's alive!